finding the percentage of an amount. So to find the percentage of an amount, we take the percentage, divide it by 100, in other words, move the decimal point 2 places to the left, and then multiply it by the value you're trying to find the percentage of. So 40% of 300. 40% would become 0.4 when we divide it by 100. Remember, we move our decimal point 2 places back. So 0.4. We then multiply that by the amount. So 0.4 multiplied by 300 gives us 120. 56%, again dividing it by 100, gives us 0.56. We then multiply that by 820. We get 459.2. Don't forget that if you are finding the percentage of a money calculation, you need to make sure you're writing 2 decimal places. So if your calculator gives you the answer as 2.4, you would actually write 2.40. If your calculator came up with 1.2489, we would round. So we count to our second decimal place, look to the right, and round accordingly. So this would become 1.24. Mental calculations. It can often help to do calculations in our head. Now, we should be able to find 10% of an amount quickly. To do that, we would divide the value by 10. In other words, move the decimal point 1 place to the left. So 10% of 35 would be 3.5. 10% of 475 would be 47.5. And of 640 would be 64. Now, 10% was very quick, very easy. To find 20%, if we know the value of 10%, we can multiply that by 2. So to find 20% of 35, we're going to take our 10% and multiply by 2, which gives us 7. Again, 20% of 475. We take our 10% and we multiply by 2, because we're now finding 20% rather than the original 10. So this gives us 95. And 20% of 640 would be 64 multiplied by 2, which is 128. Now, in a similar way, if we wanted to find 5%, we would again start off with 10% and divide by 2. Because we knew 10% and we only wanted 5%. If we were finding 30%, we would find the 10% and multiply by 3. 15% may sound challenging. You've got a couple of options here. You could find 30% and divide that answer by 2. Alternatively, you could find 10% You could then find 5%. You could then add those answers together to give you the required 15%.